So these are some interesting topics from my book, The Selfish Gene by Richard Dawkins. The first subject I want to talk about is just general. It was over the whole entirety of the book. It's our selfish genes. Our selfish genes need to survive in a competitive world. That is why they are predominantly selfish. I'm going to give these genes personalities. If you had a nice gene that just went around being nice to everyone, then selfish genes would take advantage of this. And because it's a competitive world, they would end up overpowering the nice genes, and the nice genes would go extinct or whatever, and the selfish genes would come out on top. So that is why we're predominantly selfish, because the selfish genes always trample over the nice genes. That's how it works. That's just life. Now, another name for these nice genes would be altruistic genes. Altruistic individuals or entities are entities that behave in such a way as to increase the welfare of another at the expense of its own. So, for instance, an altruistic individual would be someone who is walking down the street and saw someone in the path of a car. They would probably run into the path of the car, try and push the other person out of the way to save them, thus putting themselves in jeopardy. That would be an act of altruism. An act of selfishness would be if that person was walking into the path of the car by accident, saw that was happening, then pushed someone else into the path of the car in their attempt to get themselves out of the way. That's a little selfish. I will admit that. But altruism goes against our nature. I'm not saying be selfish, push people into the paths of cars. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that genes themselves are normally selfish, but humans look down on selfishness and say you should be more altruistic. But that's not our nature. We're just naturally selfish. Altruism is a learned behavior. That's not how we are. There is, however, one case in which genes are okay with altruism. Say you are in a room with 10 other individuals, and you all carry one extremely rare gene, and you are the only one that carry this extremely rare gene in the entire world. That's you in the blue. Then you are in trouble if you have this bomb. See this black bomb? This bomb in the corner. If you're all in this room, locked in, and there is a bomb. The genes are okay if one of these people says, I can deactivate the bomb and you'll all survive, but I will die. The genes are okay with this. They would want this person to die. Because there are two options. If this is possible, there are two options that could come out of this. This one person could die, and the rest of the 10 other people with the rare gene could be left to carry on the gene. But if everyone was selfish in this scenario, then this is the results you would have. Everyone would die. And thus the gene would not be able to be passed on to future generations. That's not what they want. But why are genes selfish? I know I kind of explained this before, but there's also another reason. Group extinction is a slow process. A very, very slow process. Unless you're like the dinosaurs and a meteor comes and kills you all in one fatal blow. It's a slow process. Individual competition, however, unlike extinction, is a very fast process. And the genes don't see far ahead enough into the future to say, this selfishness is not good for the group. This selfishness is going to cause the extinction of the group because they don't care. To them, Selfishness only equals survival and prosperity. And that's all they care about. They want to survive and they want to prosper. They don't see the extinction happening to them because it's slow and it's far off into the future. So they don't think it's their problem. That's kind of how humans can be at some points too. They don't think it's their problem. But the selfishness is bad for the group as a species in all. So that is why selfishness can prevail, because they don't look into the future. They don't say this selfishness is terrible, because at that point it's good for them. It's good for the individual. Here's a big secret. Evolution is not for the species. When I first read this in the book, I was kind of confused by this. Yeah, that might be the word. Because, well, evolution helps us, natural selection. That's how the species gets better, how they adapt to their environment. How can you say that evolution is not for the good of the species? It's because it's for the good of the individual. Then it made sense. The individuals with the best genes use them to their advantage. The individuals don't say, you know what? I think I am going to go and use these genes to reproduce and evolve my species. That's not what happens. They say, I'm going to use these genes to my advantage to help myself prosper. And I will be better than the rest of my species. They have no intention of doing it for the rest of the species. Evolution happens because of selfishness, basically. Because they use them to their advantage. But with evolution comes the extinction of certain genes. That is why genes do their best to stop evolution. They don't want this to happen. But now you're probably wondering why. Well, you're not probably wondering this, but I was wondering it. Why don't they want it to happen? Well, say you're in a society of people with really short legs. And for some reason, you're only herbivores and you only eat trees from the leaves from the tippity top of trees. Really far up. And you all have short legs. See, this is all you with the green arrows. Well, now, green and orange arrows pointing to it. That's all you. You have the short legs. And a mutated gene comes along, and suddenly there's this person with really long legs. Now, they use this to their advantage, and they more easily obtain the food, and therefore they prosper more than the ones with short legs, and are able to reproduce more. This is natural selection. It's slowly, the population flips more towards the long legs than the previous short legs. See, that's you with the green arrow, the long legs. This is not on purpose. And the genes try to stop this because at one point, the genes for the shorter legs were in control. That was their domain. Now, they're becoming extinct because the long legs are taking over. And that is evolution. They don't want to evolve because that means that they're going extinct. Sure, the long legs want them to evolve because the long legs are selfish. They want to be there. But the short legs do not want you to evolve. What is a gene? I probably should have explained this first. Anyways, a gene is any portion of chromosomal material that potentially lasts for enough generations to serve or to become a unit of natural selection. So this is your chromosome, this is your gene. Now this gene has to last for enough generations to become a unit of natural selection. So it has to be passed on from mother to daughter, from father to son, etc., etc. But traits are made up of several genes. So say if you have like long hair, blonde hair, or long legs or short legs, this isn't just one gene. This is several genes. Genes are also interdependent. Now, what does that mean? This means that if a gene was in the presence of a certain gene, a certain other gene, then they would act one way. But if they were in the presence of another gene, a different one, then they might act a different way. You could think of this as if you were in the presence of your friends, then you might act a certain way. But in the presence, there is no way in heck you would act like that in the presence of your parents. It's kind of like that. They're just acting different ways in front of different people. So if they're so interdependent, why is this not called a gene complex? Why is it more singular than plural? Well, an individual, so say like you and me, is a temporary vehicle for short-lived gene combinations. We're not talking about like bacteria here or anything, because you know from biology, when bacteria replicate, they replicate all their genes, and thus the parent is exactly identical to the daughter cell. When humans and other animals reproduce, however, there's a new combination of genes made. So for this example, I'm just referring to those. The combination is short-lived, but the genes themselves are long-lived. So the combination itself only lives for as long as the carrier, the human, the animal, whatever. They only live for as long as they live. Because you have your mother and your father creating you. The chances of those genes ever coming together again in that exact same combination are not going to happen. It's not happening. But the genes themselves, although the combination is short-lived of the genes are long-lived. The genes will be passed down for generations to come, but the combination will not. So, an example of this is, say your mother has green eyes and your father has blue eyes. These traits could be, although they like to stay together, they could be divided up when your parents produce you. Because although genes like to stay together for certain traits, they are not indivisible. They can be split up. So now you have a little bit of your father's traits for blue eyes and your mother's traits for green eyes. You are both now. Because you got a little bit from your mom and a little bit from your dad. So that's why it's not called a gene complex. Because they are individual. Even though they are complexes for a short period of time, they last for longer individually. The last thing I want to talk about is something that was brought up in the book that I found it interesting. Why do we die? I admit I never really thought of this before. Why do we die? I know that we do die. Everyone knows that. It's a fact of life. People die. But why? Why is there old age? Why do our bodies fail? I know it happens. We all know that it happens. But why? We all know how, for most cases, like organ failure or something. But why does it happen? There are two theories brought up in the book about this. The first one is accumulation of deleterious copying errors and other kinds of gene damage which occur during the individual's lifetime that cause the individual's body to fail and thus the individual to die. You guys all know how hard apoptosis and what's the proofreading DNA enzyme? Is that polymerase? I want to say DNA polymerase. It's either polymerase or helicase. I think helicase unzips. So DNA polymerase and apoptosis work. But they don't work all the time. Stuff happens, and the accumulation of these errors is thought to be a reason why people's body fail, and consequently they die. Because if you have all these copying errors, say, in your heart, then your heart at one point can no longer take all these mistakes, and your heart will fail. There is also a second theory. This is that it's an act of altruism. It's Sir Peter Medawars, can't pronounce that name, I'm sorry, theory. He says that old individuals die as an act of altruism to the rest of the species, because if they stayed around when they were too decrepit to reproduce, they would clutter up the world to no good purpose. I know that's kind of a harsh way to think about it, but I kind of like this theory. No one really wants necessarily to die, nor do they want the people they love to die. But the theory does have a point. It's not saying that the people themselves die on purpose. Rather, the genes have them die on purpose in order for the rest of the population to be able to survive. If the world got too cluttered, if everyone who ever walked the earth never died and still lived, if they lived forever, then that would be a little complicated because we would have no room, no resources, and then we would all die. So it's kind of positive in a way because they're dying for the good of the species and as an act of altruism to us. So as awful as it is, and I hate to say it this way, but it kind of puts a silver lining on the matter. They're doing this for us. So those were the topics I just thought were interesting in The Selfish Gene by Richard Dawkins. And that is all. The end.